Alright, so my name is Eric ICX, and today I'm going to be attempting to commentate Joseph Saeelee's Textmaster TGM1 Master X S7 game. So alright, I'm going to play this at 0.75 speed so I can point things out easier. I'll pause the video if I see anything blaring. Okay, so that placement of the S piece right here, I don't really understand why this placement was done personally. It just seems that it would put him at such a disadvantage, because if he put the S here, it would create a lot of possibilities. Like with this J piece, perhaps he could have put it in, he could have put it right here. Not sure if you can see this as well as I can, but he could have put it right about here, if I'm correct. Let's keep going. Alright, so this isn't really much if you're just trying to get a GM, but if you're going for time attack, a placement like of this, hang on, let me go back a bit. Yeah, of this O right here, the O is going to come down right here in columns 5 and 6. Ideally, you would want to put the O here in columns 6 and 7, since that would be a placement where you would only have to make a single tap, because double taps are really slow when we're in the context of TGM time attack. But either way, there's two possible placements here that I would consider good. Here and here. He chose this one. Alright, so that isn't really... So later on in the game, something like this is probably going to be a really important thing. But I haven't watched the whole thing yet, so I'm not sure how important. Alright. So from what I saw, when he got the long bar over here, yeah, when he got this piece, he IRS'd it, dashed to the right, and moved one column to the left. That's not a very optimal placement. What you would ideally want to do is dash it to the right and rotate. Since the I piece is biased to the right, it's going to land in column 9, either way. But since this is low G, that kind of placement doesn't matter all that much. Alright, so far so good. This is pretty normal low G. Although ideally, if this were time attack, you want to be stacking up a bit higher to save off a few seconds. So that was a bit of a situation there. Excuse me. So ideally, what pieces did he get? Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, that was crucial mismanagement. Ideally, what you would want to do is, after putting that long bar over there for time attack, you could have also cleared the Tetris with that. You want to just want to IRS this S piece and drop it down straight. You don't want to move it to the right one. That will create a space for this J that's upcoming. But you didn't do that. But if you put that J there, since this is low G and not 20G, that O would have made it over into columns 2 and 3 for the better placement. But either way, you've covered up your well. Let's see how you handle it. Interesting. So I'm not sure how a better player than me would have handled this, but I personally would have put the J put this L piece one more over than you did. Let's see how that would play out. Hang on. I'm not sure if that's a better idea after all. You might have wanted to put that there and just wait for a piece to clear that. So far so good. That's an okay placement, but you did create a little bit of a J dependency there, but you did get it. All in all, this is pretty typical. Oh, so a few things. Just in terms of TGM finesse, I noticed that you're IRSing pieces and dashing them all the way over and tapping them back when you could just das over and then tap, when you could just das over and then rotate. So yeah, that's 2 in a row. Give me a moment. So I don't have a kick chart handy, but if you das this Z piece all the way over to the left, non-rotated, and then just rotate it, then it would land in columns 2 and 3, and you'd be able to just drop it down there. And this piece, you IRS to the right, and then tapped back, and then drop down. Ideally, what you would want to do is drop this piece, is das this piece to the right, and then rotate, and then that would land in columns 8 and 9. It's just a little thing with finesse. That's just one thing to practice. Eventually, it becomes second nature. So I'm going to stop pointing those out. Hang on, let me rewatch that. Yeah, there was pretty much nothing else you could have done there except hold out for a J here. So yeah, considering the circumstances, that was a pretty ideal placement. Actually, probably not ideal, but just, you gotta do what you gotta do. Oh. So the art of micro adjustments. What you ideally would have wanted to do is instead of placing this O piece in columns 4 and 5, you would have wanted to move one over to columns 3 and 4. That would create a space for this L piece that's coming up. You'll want to put it right here. That works too, I suppose. Oh, here's a misdrop. Let's see how you handle this. So you hold out for an O piece and you get it. Put it in there. It's an okay move. Oh. So that placement that you did there, I'm going to assume that was a misdrop because it looked like you were on pace. You're looking like you wanted to put this T right here, but it looks like you just hit the rotate button by mistake. And yeah, that was probably a misdrop. Oh, what I wouldn't want to have done right there is covered up the well. I would have just wanted to move this S piece. Yeah, I would have wanted to move this S piece here with that L coming up instead of over there. That way I could have gotten another Tetris and cleaned this up later. And again, I only have 1 GM and I just got it today, so you probably should take my advice with a grain of salt. Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of times you're using suboptimal finesse, but I mentioned that earlier. That's just something that needs to be learned. Yeah, that eyepiece there, you could have saved a lot of time, and had you locked there, that would have been a huge misdrop. That would require another eyepiece to fix and a specific piece to go in here. Assuming you would put that assuming you would put that J here. But strangely enough you didn't, and I guess it's for the better. And stacking high, not taking the Tetris with that long bar. Typical time attack strategies. Now, a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be saying here about Logi is just really personal stuff. Personal stuff that would just work. That pretty much has just worked for me, sort of. But different things work for different people, so really in Logi, as long as you're stacking high, making Tetrises most of the time, you should be good most of the time. Hang on, let me rewatch what you did here. So what I ideally would have done here, since you're nearing 1G, is you place this S piece there, you place that O piece there. I would have just put this S piece, no, that's a Z piece, excuse me. The colors are getting me. Anyways, I would have put this S piece right here in columns, wait a minute, 6 and 7. I would have put this here, I tapped it over twice. But that placement is also optimal, but knowing that there's a T coming up, that was just the placement in column 6 and 7. Even though it is a double tap, in my opinion, it's just so much more versatile that it's worth any time lost. So you did that, and it looks like you tried to set up a burn here. See how that turns out. That could have gone either way, but in your case, it went badly. Watch that. I'm having mixed feelings about this J placement. Ideally, what I would have done is put it here, but I suppose if you get a Z here, that could work. Oh, sorry, if you get an S here, excuse me. Now, I would not have done that L placement. I would have I know you want to keep these holes uncovered, but at this point you just have to take what you can get. So instead of putting that L over here, I would have put the L either in column, I wouldn't have put the L in columns 8, 9, or 10. That would make it just way more difficult to clean up later. What I would have done is I would have put this L in columns 7 and 8 in the exact same position that you have it rotated in. Oh wait, yeah, 7 and 8 in this position. And then I would have put this S piece right over here. That would clear the line here. And you'd be able to put either a T piece or an S piece over here, or a J piece if you're feeling strange. And then you would have been able to clear that out pretty fast. So let's see how you played this. Alright, right off the bat, that's a time attack wasting placement, but you could have burned. But if you had done the placement that I suggested, I suppose that would have worked as well. I mean, they both work. The placement that I suggested, ideally, I'm pretty sure that would be faster for time attack, but I'm not sure. This is my first time trying to commentate like this, so excuse the mistakes. And yeah, just going to try to make another finesse point. Learning finesse is just so important in a high G situation like this. Like, I see you wanted to put this S piece in columns 8 and 9. Well, if you just IRS and DAST all the way to the right on 20G or like 5G or something, that would have gone in columns 9 and 10, and you would have gotten a double that you didn't want. And a hole here, which would make your stack less accommodating for a long bar going over to the right. But you did manage to tap it back in time and get that placement that you wanted. Good micro adjustment there for the J piece. Hang on, let me rewatch that. If you're going to do that placement, you would ideally not want to tap that once, you'll want to tap that twice, which is, if you're using both rotation buttons, I know you're only using one, that would be just a simple flick of your hand instead of double tapping a button. So that's another reason that you should use both rotation buttons if you can. But either way, even if you aren't using both rotation buttons, I would ideally just want to tap the rotation button twice there, even though it does create a long bar dependency. Oh, so you're in awkward G right now, but Ideally, what I would have done when I saw this T is I would have looked at the next box, and if I saw an L piece coming up, I would have just counterclockwise rotated this T. And there was an L piece coming up, so that's what I would have done personally. That's just a personal preference thing, probably. Oh, what I would have done here is I would have put this J over here. That flattens out. That creates a better situation for you and allows you to place more pieces here. Or rather, it's not a better situation. It just allows you to have a flatter. It just allows you to have a stack in better condition, in my opinion. I'm not really sure how to describe that situation. I'm not up to date on my Tetris terminology. Oh, placement like that with the Z. Give me a second. Yeah, given the situation, I probably would. I'm not sure if I would have done that. I probably would have put the Z over here in columns 7 and 8, but I suppose that placement works as well. So good skim with that piece there. Alright, I'm going to put this back to normal speed. Sorry, let me go back a bit here. Alright, so this Z placement, that's good. That S placement is meh. So I'll need a bit of context here. So if you place this S piece over here, that'll make your stack. If you place this S piece over here, that'll make your stack a little bit more accommodating. And even if you did put it here, yeah, you're not going to end up any better by doing this, and if anything, you're going to end up worse if this was 20G. Because you still don't have anything in column 6, but if you were to have a piece so here, if you were to have, say, a J piece, hang on, what am I saying? So yeah, if you were to have a J piece there, then you would have been able to just put it flat across here instead of having to do that weird thing that you did. And you don't want to IRS everything. There's some situations where you will actually want to wait. Like I said, it's not exactly finesse, but at the same time it is a form of finesse. Actually, I'm not sure what to call it. What the heck. You ideally should have not rotated this J piece until you got over here and rotate, and then you should have rotated it. That would have worked. And that would have created less of a thing for you to clean up. Alright, so you have S5 at level, you got S5 at level 450, which suggests that your low G play is actually pretty good. Although what could make it better is finesse mistakes and optimizing your placements. fixing the finesse mistakes. Oh, so here's something else that I really wanted to go over, and I knew I'd get an opportunity to do so. All right, a little move called the walkover. So so to do this, if this were 20G, if you did what you did, that T placement there, that would not have worked. It would have gotten stuck in this hole here. So what you would want to do in 20G in order to do that is you would want to rotate left, tap to the left once, rotate left again, and then tap left, and then rotate right, and then dash to the right, dash to the left. Sorry, and then that T would have gotten into the same place where you got. That T would have gotten into the same place where you placed it there. I mean, this is low G, so that doesn't matter. So transitioning into level 500 was 64,000 points. That's pretty good. Yeah, creating that long word dependency was pretty much required there. Now hang on a moment there. I'm not sure if that was a misdrop, but I'm not sure if I would have done this placement here of the L piece. Not exactly sure why you did that, but it's pretty suboptimal in my opinion. I would have just put this L piece in columns 5, 6, and 7 instead of 6, 7, and 8. Same position rotation wise. Let's see what you did there. Now this T placement here is pretty good considering what you had coming up. Either way, if that was a misdrop, you fixed it pretty well. I'm a bit conflicted about that T placement. You could have done a move where you raise the 5th column, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important things about playing. Yeah, you could have done just this placement right here, put it right down here, lock it, put that S piece, IRS this S piece, move it one to the right, and then you could have waited for a J piece here, or a Z piece, which you could have used in conjunction with another S piece over here. But in my opinion, this would be a more optimal placement, and it would allow you to keep flexibility of your stack since raising the 5th column. But you do what you do. Oh, now this J placement, I'm not too sure about that. So here you managed to raise the 5th column, make the 5th column the center of your stack again. Now, what I personally would have done here was I would have just dashed this J to the right, dash this J to the right, and flip counterclockwise. That would land it in columns 9 and 10, upside down, per se. And then I would have waited for a piece to put here that would be either a Z or a T or an L. And then I would have waited for a piece that has a too wide bottom to put over here. That would be, the optimal pieces for that would be either an O or an L, yeah, or an I and a J together. But I suppose different people deal with these kind of things differently, but it's just one of those things that I like doing in instant G. So you IRS that placement, good. Oh, what I would have done with this Z piece here is I would have put it in columns. I would have put this right here in columns 6, 7, and 8. So you would do a little flip there, or you would tap it to the right and then tap it back to the left. But you did that. The thing about that is you probably would have knowing what you did with that Z piece, you probably you probably would have wanted, since you have a clean path to the left, what you probably would have wanted to move this long bar over to the left, IRS it, move it all the way over to the left, and then put that S piece that you got right here in columns 1, 2, and 3. Jesus, this cough, I'm sorry. But you took the Tetris with that piece, and that forces you to do a bit of a suboptimal placement here. So just an alternate placement that you could have done with that L piece. If you had IRS'd counterclockwise, you could have put it in columns 7 and 8. Just thought I'd mention that. But that placement works as well. And if you tap, and one more thing, if you tapped back that O to the right so it's in columns 2 and 3, you could have IRS'd this J counterclockwise and put it all the way over to the left. And yeah, here's another good example of why finesse is so important in instant G. So ideally, rather than getting that eyepiece stuck on this non-raised column 6 here, what you would have done is tap it over until the eyepiece is. What you would have done is just dash this eyepiece over, and then flip either direction. That way it would land in here rather than getting stuck on there. And actually, it's not exactly stuck on there. You just didn't notice. You just thought it was stuck on there, and you didn't try to flip it back. But either way, you did the placement that I mentioned since you got 2 long bars in a row. But now you're left with a long bar here. Hang on. Oh, so what I would have done is when you're in this situation, I would have rotated this counterclockwise. And I would have tried to rapidly raise I would have tried to rapidly raise the 5th column and then get either a T piece or a Z piece, S piece over there. But you did this, and that forced you to make a few more holes in the stack. But hang on, that T piece placement, didn't notice it at first. You could have quickly risen. Hang on. Could you have done that? Yeah, you could have quickly risen column 5 and also provided a place for this Z piece had you not rotated this T at all and IRS this J to the right, and IRS this J clockwise and tapped it over 1. Making holes for that S piece there. I see create a little bit of a J/Z dependency there. That works fine. Now personally, I'm always going to say yes to the raising the column 5 placement. So ideally, what you did worked in the end, but I would have just dead dropped this O piece and the next one after it. Because I'm always a fan of raising the 5th column. Oh, usually, actually. There are some times when I don't like it. So what could you have done here? Yeah, that's pretty much one of the only placements you could have done. Alright, so you have S7 here, so I'm assuming you either get a bad situation or misdrop. That's it. That's probably it. So what you really should have done is IRS this over to the, IRS rotate, IRS it either direction, move it over to the right, rather than get it stuck in here. And I see you missed this IRS. you missed the IRS on this piece here, or you didn't know what to do with it. Oh yeah, you probably missed the IRS on it. If you didn't know what to do with it, you might have just locked it. Actually, I'm not sure if you missed the IRS or if you didn't know what to do with that L piece. But either way, it's a bad situation. All right. Let me rewatch this segment. So I would have put this S piece in columns 3, 4, and 5 personally, but that's all personal. Most of what I'm saying is just personal preference, besides the actual mistakes here in my book. That way, I'm not sure. I think you IRS this eyepiece here and moved it over to the right, and that placement would have worked as well, but you have way more options if you move this, if you put this in columns 3, 4, and 5. You could put an O piece over here, you could put an L piece over here, whatever. But with this, you have a place for an S piece or a Z piece, but you already have that over here. You already would have that over here if you put that there. So that way you would have just created a place for every piece. And if you got an O piece here, you would have been forced to put it here, and that's a pretty suboptimal placement in my book. Yeah, not really much you could have done with that J there. And I'm personally a fan of now, here I'm personally a fan of trying to dig out every garbage hole as fast as possible. And with this L piece, I would have IRS'd this to the left and put it in columns 2 and 3. And then IRS'd this S piece and just dead dropped it. Oops. But not doing that, I suppose you could have also put this L piece in columns 3, 4, and 5. And just IRS this S piece all the way over to the left. Now that I think about it, that would actually be a better placement. That way you would clear the double here, uncover this hole, and not leave much residue. And not leave a little thing here that you have to get over in order to get completely to the left. Now this eyepiece, I notice missing IRS and bad finesse is a common theme here. Of course, when I say bad, I don't mean it in an offensive way. Ideally, what I would have done, I would have put this Z piece, I would have put this eyepiece all the way over to the right. And considering the piece that you have next, that's pretty much one of the only good placements that you have. But that placement is just as good as well. Now that T-piece placement, give me a second. Considering you were in that situation, I think that's pretty much the best thing that you could have done. Of course, there's probably going to be somebody who disagrees, but ultimately, I'm not that person. I'm me. Oh, so the placement of this S piece here really limits your stack flexibility. So right after this long bar, you had a J piece, and yeah, a J piece coming up. If you had dashed this all the way over to the right, IRS. If you dash this all the way over to the right and rotate, that would have put you in columns 9 and 10. Yeah, instead of columns 7 and 8. And that way you would have had space for this J piece without having to IRS like that. But that's just an alternative placement. And yeah. Yeah, I see what you tried to do there. You tried to utilize the TGM3 eyepiece kick here, but it pretty much didn't work. Either that or you just freaked out. Ooh. So once again, my proponent of being big on cleanup, my big on cleanup garbage holes thing, is it's going to come back into play here. So what I would have done is I would have just dashed this over to the right. I would have just dashed this over to the right, the most that you can in 20G, which would put it in columns 6, 7, and 8. Without rotating it at all. And then you had that L piece next. Hang on a second. I thought you had an S piece. And then if I'd done that, I probably would have put that L piece all the way over to the left and hope for a T or a Z here. Hope for a T or an S here, but see what you did here. So right here looks to be some okay cleanup. Oh, now that's another reason why having good finesse is so important. So you're in this situation here. You can dash to the right and then rotate, and then the S piece would go in here. But instead you IRS this S piece and it just gets stuck. And even if you rotated that back, an ARS would kick in and just move it over here instead of to this position that it originally was at. And yeah, that just, from here I think that's pretty much just that's probably going to be a downward spiral. What I would have done, instead of that J placement, I would have just put it in columns 5, 6, and 7, just to raise the 5th column and put yourself at a little bit of an advantage. But let's see what piece you have next. Okay, you have a long bar next. What I probably would do is put that all the way to the left, but considering you have a T piece after that, yeah, I would have put it all the way to the left immediately. But considering that you have a T piece after that, that would have also worked to clean this up. In the end, we have pretty much the same situation, except hang on. Yeah, we do have pretty much like the exact same situation, I think. Could be wrong. Hang on, there's something different about what I was thinking. And what actually would have happened. Oh yeah, you would have only gotten a single here, so you could clear that out with an L piece instead. And yeah, another example of IRSing when you really don't need to and really shouldn't. So you got level stopped here for a little bit. Oh, and another example where the walkover would be useful. So the basic premise behind the walkover is you counterclockwise, if you're doing it to the left, you counterclockwise rotate twice, dash to the left, and then rotate right. And then rotate clockwise. If you're doing it to the right, it's that but reversed. So I think this game could have gone on slightly longer had you used a walkover here, but at this point it's pretty much just dead in the water. And yeah, from here there's not much you're going to be able to do since you missed that iris. Since you irised here when you shouldn't have and put that piece there. But either way, the game was dead. So pretty good for only playing the game for 2 weeks, according to you. And according to the date that I sent it to you. Pretty good. Pretty good.